Welcome to the Life After Sugar podcast. The podcast that's not just about sugar, but about your relationship with it and also with food and especially with yourself. So if you want to discover your life after sugar and hear inspiring stories from all kinds of people who also cut out sugar in their way, at their pace, for their own reasons, this is the podcast for you. Because when you take away the sugar, you can finally discover the real sweetness in your life. I'm your host, Netta Gorman. And can you believe that this is the 200th episode of the Life After Sugar podcast? Yeah, I can't believe it myself. And I thought I'd tell you the story of why I created this podcast, my own personal story with sugar, and also how this podcast has helped thousands of others with their life after sugar. But first, I just wanted to tell you that if you're looking for some free resources, then I have plenty for you. First, download my 5 tips to get rid of cravings. And those 5 tips may not be what you think they are. So go to aftersugarclub.com and download your 5 tips today. Come check out the Life After Sugar Facebook page and subscribe to the Life After Sugar YouTube channel, as well as my Instagram account at MyLifeAfterSugar, which is where you'll get all kinds of inspiration so that you can see that it's perfectly possible to live a happy and active life, even if you don't eat sugar. You can also check out my TikTok account at Netta_lifeaftersugar. All right, so here's my personal story. As I'm recording this, it's the fall of 2024, and I'm 54 years old, a mum to our lovely 16-year-old daughter, Lily, and I've been a college English teacher for almost 30 years. I'm not a nutritionist, and I'm certainly not a doctor. In fact, my background is more to do with Shakespeare than it is to do with sugar. I'm just an ordinary citizen and consumer, probably just like you. And as you can hear, I'm originally from the UK, but I've been living in the French part of Canada, in Quebec, for over 35 years. I never imagined that it was possible to live an active and fun life without my favourite comfort foods, especially chocolate. I mean, chocolate was part of my identity. I was proud of being a chocoholic. So it was a complete surprise to me to discover that living my life after sugar makes me feel healthier and more energetic now in my 50s than I felt in my 30s. And the amazing thing is that I don't want, crave, or miss sugar anymore. And this is what I call freedom from cravings, because that's exactly how it feels. Liberating. Oh, but hang on, I'm getting carried away. Let me back up a little and tell you my backstory. See, sugar had always been part of my life, and I couldn't imagine it any other way. And I was convinced that I could handle just a little bit. A little bite, 1 or 2 biscuits or cookies, a square or 2 of chocolate, and yet over and over again, that just a little bit turned into the whole packet, or the whole box, or the whole bar. And as time went on, I felt like there must be something wrong with me. Like I wasn't strong enough, or I didn't have enough willpower, because every time I'd get cravings, well, I'd cave. I just couldn't stop myself from reaching out for sugar or chocolate or comfort foods whenever I felt stressed or emotional or frustrated or overwhelmed or bored or depressed or even happy. And then when I did give in to my cravings, I'd feel guilty and ashamed that I wasn't strong enough. And then the whole cycle would start again. I'd put on a few pounds and then I'd tell myself, okay, Netta, you're off chocolate. And then within a day or two, I'd feel restricted and then I'd binge on sweets again. And in my 20s and through my 30s, I kept having this love-hate relationship with sugar and with comfort foods, and I just felt like I was slipping and sliding all the time, off again, on again, up and down with my weight, with my cravings, all the way into my 40s. And from my early 30s all the way through to my mid-40s, I was getting more and more digestive issues, to put it politely. In fact, what I was suffering from was chronic constipation. And it got to a point where I was going to the bathroom like once a week. Can you imagine? I mean, that's toxic. And I was so uncomfortable. I was bloated, I was gassy, my back ached, my breath smelled. I'd seen all the doctors. They'd even taken x-rays of my intestines and told me that, well, I was full of it. And it wasn't just my digestion. I had skin breakouts, mood swings, depression, aches and pains in my joints. My weight yo-yoed and my clothes didn't fit me anymore. And one day, I remember it, we were driving somewhere and I was sitting in the car, staring out the window, thinking, I just can't carry on like this. I was desperate and I was exhausted of feeling quite literally crappy. I mean, my daily routine included Tylenol, Gas-X, and Tums. And the doctors told me to eat more fibre, so I ate cereals like All Bran and those fibre bars. And that just made everything worse. And then I'd have to take laxatives. It was horrible. I got to my mid-40s and all I wanted was to get back my energy and my health so that I could enjoy the activities and outings that I loved again. I mean, I love dancing. I love going out. I love having friends and family over. I love hiking and snowshoeing in the woods. And I felt like I was missing out, you know? And quite frankly, I thought I was doing everything right. Tracking calories, exercising, eating all that bran. But despite all that, I was still getting frequent headaches and energy slumps in the afternoon. And cravings. The cravings. I remember even in the snowy winter up here in Canada, going out specially to buy a box of something sweet and sugary, and then in the parking lot in my car, eating half the box, or sometimes eating everything in the box. And it became kind of a running joke for my family to find pieces of chocolate or crumbs in my car. Except it wasn't really that funny. Not to me, at least. And for me, well, chocolate just made me feel better. But it was complicated. I mean, it was an off-again, on-again relationship with chocolate and my weight, and I just couldn't stay stopped, you know? So the idea of never eating chocolate again was just overwhelming. There was no way that I could even imagine it, let alone try it. And so I continued as before. I turned to sugar whenever I felt any type of emotion, any type of stress, even when I felt like celebrating. Sugar was there, and chocolate was there for me. So you can imagine that when it was suggested to me to reduce my sugar intake, and that sugar may have something to do with my digestive issues and my general health issues, it was a real shock for me. I didn't want to hear it. I did not want to believe it. So what did I do? I resisted. I dug my heels in and I said, no way. There is no way that you're going to make me cut sugar or chocolate. I mean, these are the things that are making me feel better. Why would I want to cut them and feel worse? I I want to take a quick break to say that if this is your first time here, then welcome and thank you for listening to this podcast and for celebrating the 200th episode with me. And whether you're new or a regular and you haven't yet rated or reviewed this podcast, could I ask you to scroll down and tap on the stars to rate this podcast and also to write a short review to let me know how this podcast is helping you in your life after sugar. I love reading your reviews. In fact, since January 2021, my little podcast has almost 250 mostly 5-star ratings and lots of reviews. So I thought I'd just read a few out for you. From Wendy, listening to this podcast is a great reminder to leave sugar out of my day. Thanks, Netta. And from Patty, sugar is a big problem for many people, and I'm one of them. Listening to Netta's podcast is a good habit to adopt. Each time I listen, I get a bit more inspiration and, more importantly, good information that helps me cut back and hopefully one day give up sugar. Thanks, Netta. From Laurie, I love all the cravings support and education from this excellent podcast. I always learn something new and empowering. And from Paige, I'm so grateful to have found Netta. Her common sense and lived wisdom helps me see things clearly. She has a straightforward approach to clean eating and she makes it simple to follow. Thanks, Netta, for all you do. And also from Nick, who says, life-changing. I found Netta's podcast about 6 months ago and have since transformed my relationship with sugar and, as a result, how I feel in every area of my life. This podcast is informative and useful. I really look forward to every new episode. Thank you. And thank you, everyone, for listening and for leaving these wonderful reviews. It really encourages me to keep making new episodes. Welcome back to the 200th episode of the Life After Sugar podcast. And to celebrate, I thought I'd tell you about why I created this podcast and the backstory of how I ended up in my life after sugar. So before the break, I was telling you just how much I resisted even the idea of reducing or cutting sugar. And you know where all that resistance got me? Absolutely nowhere. And you know why? Because nothing changes if nothing changes. So I carried on with all my health issues, my weight yo-yoing, my digestive problems, my headaches and everything else. Nothing changed. And it was really only when I felt absolutely desperate, when I felt I just couldn't carry on living that way, with the cravings and going to the bathroom just once a week, that basically I got over myself and decided that I'd give it a go. Actually, I remember exactly when it was, and it was during the summer of 2015. I was drinking this sweet mocha slushy drink, and I thought to myself, this could be the last sweet drink I ever have, or at least for 2 weeks, because 2 weeks was all I could handle. I mean, the idea of never again seemed totally overwhelming, because what if I couldn't do it right? Or what if I failed at being sugar-free? Or what if I couldn't be perfect at it? You know what I mean? So a 2-week period seemed kind of doable, even though it did seem like a huge undertaking and a massive change. I mean, full disclosure, I definitely didn't want to cut sugar, but I kind of felt like I had no choice because I also didn't want to carry on suffering. And for those 2 weeks, I felt confused and lost and disoriented because I didn't know what the heck I was doing. I had no clue what to buy at the grocery store and no idea what to make for meals. I had no choice but to take things one step at a time, one day at a time, and even one meal at a time. That was the only thing that made this feel possible. And, well, to make a 2-week long story short, what I discovered was that focusing on whole foods when I reduced sugar helped me to finally be able to improve my digestion and all my other symptoms. It was amazing. I would never have thought it possible. And after those 2 weeks, I decided to carry on for another week, and, well, it's been almost a decade. Why did I carry on? Well, because I got my energy and my health back, and I was finally able to go out and dance and travel and go to the bathroom every day and eat whatever I want. Because, yes, I don't want to eat sugar anymore. And that was one of the most amazing things for me, because over time, my tastes changed. And the sugary foods that I used to love just lost their appeal. And the sweetest food that I could handle was fruit. I never thought that I, Netta, the world's #1 sweet tooth, would one day say with absolute honesty that I don't like sweet tastes anymore. Crazy, huh? And I kept a kind of log of my experiences over those days and weeks and months, because I like writing things down, and maybe I should put them in a book or something. But seriously, what I found was that this experience was so life-changing for me, so absolutely transformational, not just for my health, not just for my weight, but for my relationship with food, especially sugar, and with myself. It was so amazing to me that I wanted to share it. I wanted to shout it from the rooftops. So, because I'm a teacher, I started giving workshops. And this was way before COVID, so I'd use a classroom in my college where I teach, and people would come to hear me talk about sugar and what it does to your body, your brain, your cravings, and your gut health. And then over time, I thought to myself, I want to reach more people. And I decided to start a podcast. In fact, the way it happened was that I promised a friend of mine that I would get my podcast out there by the end of January 2021. And I did. I hit the publish button on the 31st of January 2021. And that was episode 1. And that's when I came up with the name Life After Sugar, because I didn't want to call it Life Without Sugar, which kind of sounds negative and restrictive. I wanted it to be a positive outlook on sugar-free living, like a before and after. And Life After Sugar just kind of popped into my head, as well as this little metaphor that you hear in every introduction. Because, when you take away the sugar, you can finally discover the real sweetness in your life. Welcome to the first episode. My name is Netta Gorman. Ah, great memories. And since I started this podcast, that I record and edit all on my own, it's been in the top 100 nutrition podcasts in the US, even though I'm an English teacher, not a nutritionist, and it's had more than 500,000 downloads from all over the world. Amazing! My little podcast. And in these past 200 episodes, I've had so many amazing guests and so many people reaching out, writing reviews, getting in touch with me through email and through social media, and it just encourages me and motivates me to keep going. I love making this podcast. I really do. And I love hearing from you. And this is why I do it. Because if this podcast can change just one person's life, and I know it has, then I'll carry on making it for as long as I have the energy. And as you know, less sugar means more energy. So thank you for listening to this podcast, for leaving a review, for getting in touch with me, and for sharing the message, not just about how bad sugar is, but rather how good life is after sugar. And if you want to live this wonderful feeling of freedom, then get in touch with me. And let's see how my 90-day program, the Freedom from Cravings Formula, can help you. It's a program that's specifically designed for women over 50 who want to get rid of cravings and feel more in control around food, especially sugar and comfort foods. In the program, you'll get step-by-step guidance and customized support through the 5-step formula that I've developed to help you get control over cravings so that you can finally live your life with more energy and fit into your favorite clothes effortlessly and feel confident in your food choices so that you can ditch the shame and embarrassment that you feel every time your emotions make you slip or fall off the wagon, and so that you never feel like you're on some kind of a restrictive diet. If you're at the stage of your life where you're finally ready to look after yourself, let's chat. You can hop on a free clarity call with me at any time by going to aftersugarclub.com and clicking on the big green button, Schedule a Clarity Call. We'll have a quick 30-minute one-on-one chat where you'll be able to tell me more about your challenges and goals, and we'll be able to see how the Freedom from Cravings Formula program can help you. So go to aftersugarclub.com. Speak soon. That's it for this week. Keep in touch and see you soon for another episode.